Hello and welcome to BusyWorksBeats.com. Today we continue the FL Studio series right here at BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. Today is part 2 of how to make beats in FL Studio. So I separated the parts because I didn't want it to get too dense and make this an hour long and then make it too hard for you to reference all this stuff. So this is part 2, and we're going to go over how to make melody in FL Studio. And I'm going to show you the top level stuff to make this simple bass line that we created very animated along with our melody. So the first step we need to do is go to the channel rack. This is where we add sounds. So let's hit the plus icon. Now, if you haven't seen part 1, I'd highly recommend part 1 because I showed you how to set everything up. So it's kind of vital that you go back to part 1. I'll leave a link below if I remember, hopefully so. Anyway, hit the plus icon. We're going to load up a plugin that says Citrus. So find Citrus on your list. And this is an FM synthesis plugin. You don't need to know everything about everything, but I'm only using it because this comes with all versions of FL Studio. I wouldn't normally use this. I'm just showing you from the tools that you have. Okay. So now that we have it up, we're going to highlight it in our channel rack. Just left click on it to make sure it's green. Hit Control L or Command L on Mac, and it will send it to the mixer for us. So now when I play notes, it goes to that specific spot. So it has a cool sound, but it can get a little tricky. Okay, so I don't want to harp on that. So let's hit play and remind people where we left off in part 1. Very basic bass line. Let me hear this over my speakers just to triple check to make sure that bass is rocking. Okay, the bass is rocking as I expected. So I had to double check because I never checked before. So now that we have this, let's go back to our channel rack, make sure we pull up the information, and let's go to a new pattern. Okay, so most people teach you how to put all your music into one pattern. I found that that's very problematic for a lot of different reasons. And I don't want to bog you down with all the minutia. So what we're going to do is right click, go to piano roll. And now we're going to draw some notes. So we're probably not going to use this sound. So before we go into the piano roll, let's hit spacebar on the song mode. Remember, hit song mode, hit spacebar. And let's go through Citrus's presets. So to do that, there's a list here. So if you left click in the top right where it says presets, you can pull up different patches. And I'm going to start in let's do the chromatic area. And we're just trying to find a sound that sounds modern that goes along with this bass type sound. That one's a little... Let's do the marimba. So from the list, if you click on it and go under where it says chromatic and go to marimba, let's start there. This is a very standard kind of basic sound. Let's hit X and let's go back to the channel rack. We are on pattern 2. You just left click and drag up to access that. Now right click. Now again, we're in pattern mode, so we need to go to pattern mode to play. So let's right click. Let's go to piano roll. And actually, I know I'm showing you a lot of steps here. So let me show you a little advanced technique. I might as well. I was trying to make this beginner, but let's make it a little advanced for a second. You can actually drag pattern 2 into the playlist. Okay, so what that means is I can go to song mode and I can left click and drag this out. So whatever I play in pattern 2, I can hear it in real time as pattern 1 plays in the background. So all you have to do is just drag it out to equal 4 bars and highlight it, hit Control to highlight, and hit Control B to latch paste. So paste on the end of wherever it left off. Okay, so now when we go into pattern 2, we can actually hear it in real time in the pattern mode. So that's how you do that in the playlist mode, I meant to say. Let's go to channel rack. Let's right click, go to piano roll. So now let's add the notes as we hear them. So it's going to start with a random note. Now remember, our bass started on E. Okay, so we can be a little cooler. It doesn't have to be as slow as the bass. So, okay, so I'm gonna draw these notes. So they're only 2 increments long. So it goes dun 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 dun. Okay, so it's okay that we're using this kind of simple melody right now. I'll show you how to make it more complex. Okay, we're just gonna grab that note that says seeds, pull it in a little bit so it doesn't go over. Now we're gonna hit Control or Command, highlight, and hit Shift, left click, and then pull that over. It will duplicate whatever you have. So I'll show you again how to make this stuff sound modern. We're not even halfway done yet. Let's hit Control, left click, highlight all this, hit Shift, drag it over. Okay, so we're just gonna highlight all this. Again, let's do it one more time. Hit Shift, left click, drag it over. So the melody really doesn't need to change. Now I'll show you where we can get really fancy with the melody. So here's where we do what's called harmonization. I'm gonna add the same note here, E. We're gonna grab all these notes. Actually, no, we're not gonna take all the notes because I don't wanna confuse you. We're gonna grab the E and just add an E lower. So instead of E6, it's gonna say E5. Okay, we're gonna add another one here. And basically what we're doing is following the bass line. So if you remember, it goes doom, doom, do, boom, 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 boom. So that was the bass line. So it's a little more animated. And again, I'll show you tricks on how to make this sound actually cool. We're not even halfway done yet. So another thing you could do is add what's called interval harmonization. This is for more advanced folks, but again, we have music theory training right at busyworksbeats.com/music theory. So if you ever get confused, and I forgot to mention, I'm going to give you the project files for this as well. I forgot to mention that before. So no worries on that. But if you ever get confused on music theory, just go to busyworksbeats.com/music theory, because what we're going to do here is add a fifth in our bass. And we could do it here, or we could pull it down. I like it down. So, you know, without boring you to death with music theory knowledge, we're just going to add B. Okay. And what we can do, so I'll just tell you the answers because I don't want to get into too much music theory. But what I'm doing though is adding the fifth for each of these. Okay, so now it's getting into the more pro level stuff. So here are the hotkeys you can use to make your melody sound amazing. So the first hotkey is Alt and then R, and this randomizes. So by default, it should look like a mess, just like this. Let's turn off pattern mode and then go to levels and mess with this VEL, which stands for velocity. Basically, this humanizes the way the notes are played instead of just this like, it plays it like, it plays it as like a realistic volume. And let's hit accept. Now you can't really tell with this sound. So what we're gonna do is hit Alt X or Option X. I forgot to mention on the Mac the alternative. And also the other alternative was Option R to get that. But now we're on Option X or Alt X. And then we're gonna pull down what's called the multiply factor in the middle. Just to soften the melody a little bit. You could also pull everything up if you want it. I don't want that sound though, I want it softened. Okay, now we're gonna hit a combination, Alt S, or on Mac it's called Option S. And this is called the strum feature, strummerizer. Okay, and we're gonna pull up the strength. So it goes bring. And now we have a little more bring, like a little more movement to our melody. Now we can hit accept. So I'm going to go in and make a pro move here. You don't have to do it because it's a little more advanced. I'm going to edit what's called the release time. And this is only so we can get the sound that we want out of this. So this is not for the tutorial. This is me just trying to get the sound that I want. So don't worry about me making these adjustments. I wanted to make it so when I hit a key, it doesn't just automatically fade out. You hear how that has a tail? So before it didn't have that tail. It was just like, ding. I like that kind of long tail sound. So that's my own preference. Okay, you don't have to do that step. Now we are going to go to the mixer and go to Citrus, just left click on it. And now we're gonna start adding effects. So the first effect is in slot 1 or insert 1. We're going to click here. Let's go to Fruity Delay 3. I'm going to show you how to use this like a madman, a mad scientist. So after you have it on, we're going to open this up, turn down your dry level all the way to 0, turn down what's called feedback level all the way to 0, and then lastly, turn your delay time down all the way to 0. Basically what this means is every other knob becomes a sound effect. And the sound effect I want here is called time modulation. So under modulation, we're going to move this time effect. Here it goes like, woo. That's what we're doing to the sound. And if you're pro level and you want some what's called chorusing, you could turn up your dry level to add chorusing. In this case, you would have to create like this is for more advanced. I know I'm talking Chinese to somebody, but you would just move your offset a little bit to widen it out. That's if you want chorusing. We don't have to get too deep into that. Let's mess with the saturation knob. See how it sounds buzzy? Mess with that level. We can also add what's called a filter. So put this on LP, it stands for low pass, meaning only the low frequencies will pass through. And then we can pull the cutoff down, just to muffle the sound a bit. Then you can pull up what's called resonance, which adds like sometimes it adds a tone. You don't need to obsess about that. Now I'm debating, should I show you the real way to do stuff or this may complicate people. So to prevent making you feel like you don't understand what I'm saying, let's just go to slot 2 and let's open up Fruity Reverb 2. Okay. We're going to pull the dry level down to about 20%. In the top left, it tells you the value. We're going to pull up what's called decay time. We're going to pull up what's called low cut until it says about 400 hertz, and then pull down what's called the high cut to about 2.7 kilohertz. But again, you're going to get the project file, so don't worry about memorizing all this. We're going to pull the mod knob up, and we're going to add a little time delay. And then if you want more effect, you can pull up your wet level. So now the melody feels like it's in a space. Let's mute the bass for a second. So I just want to show you how effects can completely change your sound. So here's without the effects. Now that's with MIDI effects because we use the strum feature and all this type of stuff to make it sound cool. But here's without any effects. Here's with. Now, I'm not sure everybody has the full version of Gross Beat, but if you want to take this to a really high level, click on slot 3, go to Gross Beat. Let's go to presets, momentary, and let's go to where it says half speed. This will slow the whole thing down. I think they allow you to have demo versions of Gross Beat, so I'll leave Gross Beat in here, but that's the thing that makes it modern trap. Let's open the bass back up. Let's do one more thing for the bass. So since we have this kind of tone, we're kind of making it lively and modern. We're going from those weird sounds to like something that we could actually use. So now let's go back to 3X OSC. We're going to open up a fruity chorus and it's going to widen out the bass. And I'm going to go back to Fruity Blood Overdrive until I get the tone that I need. So I'm going to mess with this knob. And what I might do, oh, you guys don't have Harmore or Harmless. So I'm trying to think of a way we could, maybe Citrus. So I know I told you 3X OSC before, but there's a certain sound I have in my head that we have to get to. And I'm going to teach you guys how to do like a Travis Scott bass. So this is a little added bonus. I'm going to replace this by right clicking, go to replace, and let's replace this with Citrus because I feel that the best bass for this is called a Super Saw. We're going to go to Citrus and let's go to presets, go to default. Okay. And by default, this is not set to a saw. You don't need to memorize all this type of stuff. I'm just going to quickly do it for you. Go to shape, pull this up if you're curious. And let's take it off Blood Overdrive. So it's a simple sawtooth. And we need to go to effects and we need to widen out the chorusing for this. So we need to send voice 1 through these effects. And I think we have, again, this is really advanced stuff. You guys don't need to memorize this stuff. On the front panel, we have what's called unison. Actually, before we go to the effects, let's turn on unison. And there we go. So it's not this best super saw in the world. Let's say about 4 is the amount of voices I want. Then we're gonna detune them. I don't think we need a sub octave, but we may. Again, I know I'm speaking like a whole different language. I'm just doing this so that you get the best result. So this is in the greater good. We're gonna go to the top left, go to the wrench tool, go to mono mode, turn that on. Okay, so we still have to do a couple things to edit this sound because it sounds a complete craziness right now. Let's go back to pattern 1. And actually, before we do that, let us rename this citrus. And I know there's a lot going on, you guys. I get it. Let's call this citrus. So I have to do all this stuff because I'm making edits. Again, you're going to get the project file, so no worries. Where we at here? So I need to pull this down an octave. And to do that, we're going to change the multiplier here. The ratio, it's called. Okay, then we can hit control down. So we're getting like a darker type Travis Scott sound. And what I need to do is go to slot 2 and open up parametric EQ 2. And we're going to grab this top right thing and switch, left click and drag it until you see this shape. And we're going to pull the frequency knob down. Then I'm going to pull this band order down. And then pull up what's called bandwidth to create like a Drake type sound. So I know we went really advanced. I just want to show you how much work goes into stock sounds to make them sound modern. Now we can go back and add Fruity Blood Overdrive. Okay, so again, here's without all these effects. So that sounds crazy, right? So here's with the effects. So maybe I'll do a different section where we mix the sound because I don't want to get too caught up in the mixing, but we had to change that sound to fit the vibe or else it wasn't going to fit. So that's the melody video for you. I gave you a little bonus on how to swap out your bass. I know it's a little convoluted, so I'm going to give you the project files in the case that you tried to follow along and got lost. I get it. I didn't anticipate that, but just for the greater good, I had to get that bass right. One more thing is let's double click on pattern 1 to edit the piano roll. And let's hit Control A and just make sure the notes overlap just a little bit. But whenever you make notes overlap, you see how this one goes into that next bar? We're gonna make sure it doesn't, or else it will like do a whole different thing. Okay. And now when we go to our citrus and go to the top left where it says settings, go to the wrench tool, we can turn on what's called portamento, which means it will like pitch bend if we turn up the slide parameter. That's the Drake type of sound. So it goes, it does like a pitch bend. Here it goes, so it sounds like a pitch slide as opposed to just, so it adds more like movement to the bass. So let's go to part 3 now, which is going to be the drums that we're going to add to this track. We're gonna have to do a lot of work because again, FL Studio was not built for hip hop in my opinion. So the drums are not where they need to be. So I'm going to give you the project files. What else do I have to tell you? And yeah, part 4 is probably going to be mixing, I think. So it's a lot to take in, I understand, but this is your first beat. you learn pro level stuff, and it's pretty step by step. So thank you for watching. It's Game from BusyWorksBeats.com. If you want the project files, go to BusyWorksBeats.com/FL Studio. Peace.